Happy Sunday, friends. It's Sunday. It's our cleaning day. Um, I'm just, I've been cleaning the past few hours and just thinking about stuff. And something crossed my mind, and I was like, I felt like inspired to make a video about it. I don't, maybe this is for someone, or maybe it's just me and I needed to verbalize it, but here I am. Um, the thought I was having was how beautiful it is when ex spouses can move on with their lives and not hold bitterness and vengeance and malice towards their ex spouse. And I will preface this with the fact that I know there are some spouses who um, they were abusive, they threatened your life, that sort of thing. Those people absolutely like they that doesn't this conversation doesn't go for those people. There are some little things that I'll talk about that might kind of cover that aspect of things, but for the most part, I'm talking about people who um, they weren't uh, abusing abusive. But what I was thinking about is an acquaintance of mine announced her a pregnancy today, and um, she has been married before and has two children from that marriage, and now she's with her new husband, and they, they're going to have their baby. And I was thinking about how, and I don't know the ins and outs of their relationship. Like I said, we're acquaintances. Um, but I was just thinking how when parents can co-parent and then something like that, the one of the spouses has moved on and is having children and having big milestone things happen in their life with this new person, how beautiful it is when the ex-spouse can be supportive and not envious and not kind of catty. And again, with this acquaintance, I don't know what their relationship is, but that I was just thinking about things, and that popped into my mind about there are relationships like that with ex significant others or spouses, and they are able to have that good co-parenting, or even if you didn't have kids, like there's, even though you probably don't see each other ever again and you're not trying to hang out or something, like you still have a healthy relationship, like mentally, to that part of your life. And that's rare, but it's super important. And then that got me thinking about, as many of you know, I was married in the past. How long have I been divorced? In December, it'll be 10 years that I've been divorced. That is mind boggling. And then I do wonder sometimes, I'm like, my ex husband moved on very quickly, got married, has a few kids. Like in 10 years, like he did a bunch of stuff. And here I am, like no kids, and I'm in a wonderful relationship, but I'm not married. And I just sometimes wonder, like, if, you know, people from that time in my life are like, well, Promise still isn't married. Like, she still didn't have kids. Like, that's interesting. Not that it matters what anybody thinks, but those, you wonder about stuff. Thoughts cross your mind. Um, but I got to thinking about, my ex husband and just that whole thing. And I was thinking, like, I don't, while I, from my perspective and my experience, it was a toxic and abusive relationship. And I don't obviously haven't kept connection, especially because we didn't have kids. But there, as much as like, I mean, I'm just being super honest, as much as when I think about him, I think, I don't like this person. The person that I knew, heck no, don't like that person. But who's to say that he did not change and grow? And who am I to keep this aspect of him from 10 plus years ago in my head, that he is this evil villain? And then it also got me thinking, like, I wouldn't want the people who knew me through him to have those thoughts about me, that I'm some horrible person, because I was also toxic. And I've talked about this like plenty of times. I was in a place in my life in that relationship. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have self-worth. I didn't have self-love. And when you don't really know yourself and you don't love yourself, you can't properly love and accept and nurture another human when you can't do that for yourself. So I also was not the greatest spouse. I wasn't. I was very childish, very mentally and emotionally young and not ready for marriage. So I take full responsibility for that. But all of that to say, I just kept thinking that it if we can really reflect on past relationships and marriages that ended and focus on what the lesson was that we were supposed to learn from that, instead of being regretful about it, and instead of being resentful and holding that person in our mind, at holding them in a place that maybe they aren't in anymore. Maybe they have grown, because I know, man, like who I am today from who I was 10 years ago. And then we got married. What was it? We oh Lord, we got married in 2010. So from the time that I married that man, then to the time I divorced, and then 10 years later, like I have been several different versions of myself since that time. And I know that I've changed, and I know that I actually like who I am now. Back then I didn't like who I was. Um, and that's multifaceted. But now I actually like who I am as a human being. And who am I to try to hold somebody else and see them in my mind's eye as who they were, when I don't know who they are now? And, um, I don't know if they've changed. I can know who they were. Like, of course, I would never try to be friends with certain people from my past ever again. I would never try to reconnect, but there's something about like letting go of holding them in your head as this version of them that they were when you knew them, because for sure they've changed, but you don't know in what ways. I mean, these people could still be extremely toxic, extremely abusive, and dangerous. So, in that aspect of things, I'm not talking about trying to reconnect or anything like that, but for your own sake, I think it is so important to do your best to. Oh God, I was afraid that my mic wasn't on. I was going to be upset. Um, but I think for our own sakes, for our own soul and our own heart, it is a good practice to just let go of who the story that we've wrapped around this person, that the friendship or relationship, the marriage, and what we're talking about, the marriage or relationship didn't end well. Divorces don't happen when things are going well, you know? So I do my best, and I'm doing my best to kind of release people and know that I don't know who they are now, and I hope and I wish them the best. I hope that they are healed and that they're a better version of themselves. But I am going to do my best to not, whenever they cross my mind, because people cross your mind, you can't help it, um to not think with negative, not have negative thoughts, and to just let the thought cross and then let it go, and to also not continue telling the story of that person. It's been 14 years since I married that person. Why would I want to continue just telling this awful story? And then, yeah, if people, of course, ask you about like your past and your marriage and all that stuff, yes, but Let's not continue telling ourselves these stories from the experience that we did have, because we already, our body and our spirit and our mind and our soul already had that experience. We don't need to continue having it. And then have compassion and grace on those people and release them, because they're not in our lives anymore. So just release it. And then if you are co-parenting and that sort of thing, if there is a way to be more what's the word, neutral, and just allow them to have their experience. And that's definitely a tougher road to hoe. And I'm not going to go there because I don't know, because I'm not a parent and I'm not co-parenting. But I think it's just healthy to release people from the stories that we have with and of them. Sorry, my washing machine is spinning, so you might hear a knocking, and that's what that is. But that's it. That All of that just crossed my mind today, and I was like, I feel like I need to make a video about it. So here it is, and take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. And I hope that you have a great rest of your weekend, and happy Father's Day.